All right. Well, you guys know me well enough. You know that an hour is going to be hard for me to contain and get everything in that I need to get in, so. Bear with me as we get up and running and go forward from there. Also, if you know me, that means any class that I teach, I'm going to ask questions left and right. So if you're in a spot that you cannot talk, you probably want to shoot something in the chat, just let me know. Otherwise, I will be asking for participation. Just let's get feedback. The purpose of it having a classroom isn't just for me to sit up here and lecture. It is for us to get knowledge that we find purposeful and useful that we can actually use and navigate through. All right. So, all right. What we're in for today, time management strategies for networking success. So we go through that. Just a question to everybody. What does networking mean to you guys? What do you want to get out of today?
Networking means just socializing or interacting with everyone that you really come in contact with, whether it's grocery store, your business, exercising at the gym, whoever you come in contact with.
Okay, very good, very good. Anybody else want to socialize, or what does networking mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, networking is, making those relationships with other people.
Yeah. Like that.
Long-term relationships possible. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to get out of this is pretty much what the title says, just kind of like strategies related towards networking, which I guess maybe, strategies, I guess, with those,
Good.
relationships.
Okay. So we got socializing, interacting, making relationships, hopefully deep relationships. Does networking mean anything else to anyone else while we're getting up running?
Or just building.
Building, all right. I'll rock with it. Yeah, may or may not be able to see me. I can't figure out which one of these cameras I'm looking at, so bear with me. I'll try to move these so that Al can pick me up too. All right, so in our class today, as we're going through, you kind of see some of the slides right here. The purpose of the day is really just to go through that, right? One, explain what networking is. And for those of us who have spent years doing it, one thing with networking is sometimes we don't even know if it's purposeful. We just know that there's events to be events. We don't recognize each one of the networking opportunities. I love, that you mentioned, going to the gym and just different places that we interact, that is also networking because it's real and it's true. So as we go forward, let me make sure all right, so first question is networking worth it, right? So what networking is it just involves building relationships, attending events, following up with our contacts, engaging in various activities and expanding your professional network. That literally is what networking is, right? And for us, we want to be purposeful with almost everything that we do. So when I look at, if you guys know the last class that I went to that I just found profound, and I came back and I just wanted to share everything from it, it was when I went to Quantum Leap. I hadn't been to Quantum Leap before, and one cool thing about it was it wasn't so much geared towards real estate, it was just geared towards your personal introspective, who you are, what you drive towards, what you enjoy doing. And it really honed in on being purposeful with everything that you go through and do. If we spend 10,000 hours or something, you become an expert. How many hours of our lives have we talked to other people? How often do we engage with people, right? How many relationships have we built, good, bad, or indifferent? We're building relationships all the time. So one thing about the Quantum Leap class is it made me think about how do you maximize your productivity, right? And if we are effective with our time, even when it comes to networking, it'll be a way for us to get the most out of that time, right? You can put structure to what relationships are you building? How are you networking now? What time are you allocating to it? The tasks that you have involved with it, how you should follow up, when you should socialize, just the little things that you have. One thing I'm not going to talk a lot about today, just because I think we get that, is just the personal growth and development we can have from network and events that we can go through. Skinner mentioned it earlier, but the question is, how do you network? So The actual definition of it is you network by exchanging information and ideas among people with common professions or a special interest. Usually in an informal setting, and networking often begins with a single point of common ground. So let's throw out scenarios, right? So Skinny, you mentioned being at the gym. How would you network at a gym, or how can you network at a gym, or why is it possible for you to have that network start at a gym?
Well, just not necessarily the gym, but just a lot of places, like typically, okay, so I have a daycare. So sometimes I have on my childcare shirt. So that sometimes initiates a conversation with people because they say, oh, you have a daycare. So from there, it leads on to, well, what else do you do?
Mhm.
So then that's how I interact with people. Like if I'm at my event space, I do sometimes in the evenings during the week, I have on my daycare shirt. So then they say they come in for an event, to book an event, but they also say, oh, you have a daycare? Yes. Well, what else do you do? And then I just run down my resume. So that's how I kind of sometimes initiate contact just with paraphernalia, like what I wear.
Mhm.
So that's helpful for me.
So you're very purposeful, right? In knowing that you're wearing something that can engage and spark a conversation.
Yeah.
Shank just rolled out, but Shank is in the office and typically he'll wear his realtor shirt. My wife gets on me. When I fly, I typically fly in one of two things. Either, matter of fact, it's really only one thing, honestly. If you see me fly, you typically see me in a Southern University shirt. You know, my HBCU that I went to, we have a huge following that is across the globe. And when we see another person went there, somehow, somewhere, we spark a conversation. My wife didn't understand it until we were coming back from Jamaica, and then we were in the Bahamas, and the same thing happened. We're sitting in the airport, next thing you know, I have a conversation with somebody who's 20, 30 years older than me, and we are just talking about all the changes and things that we experienced, but it built a network, right? And it just found a way that, and what we see right here, you know, it just starts with a single point of common ground, and that single point of common ground expands out from there. There's a book, dang, I can't remember the name. What's in it for them, I believe is the title of this one. And it actually categorizes relationships that you have or that you build. And one of them, they call it health relationship, that it's energetic, it's lucrative, and it's fun. And if you can build that type of relationship, that is something that you can build a deep passion with, right? And think about those words. It's energizing, right? So you enjoy being around those people. Lucrative, you find a way that everybody can profit or benefit or gain value from being in that relationship. And it's fun. When something's fun, you want to engage and you want to be involved in it more and more. So we think about it versus the hard relationships where, you know, you always are working. You have to always assess. You have to be involved. That hard relationship is something where it takes a lot of energy out of you to be involved in that one versus having a health relationship that's fun and engaging for you to be a part of. So I want to go through this question and we're going to write it out here. So I'll actually write it for those who are on Zoom. I'm going to try something different. Instead of me using the notepad behind me, I'm going to try to write on our screen so we can see it together. Let's walk through. What are some challenges you guys have when it comes to networking, or what are you experiencing? Or if you're here to get better, what do you want to get better at when it comes to networking?
Personally, it just, one thing I would like to get better at is just recognizing those opportunities when they come.
Okay.
It's so easily, you know, it takes, like you said before, you know, you gotta do 10,000 hours to master it something. But it starts with taking that first recognition of going, hey, this is an opportunity, and then taking action.
All right, we got to recognize an opportunity. What else? What's something else you want to get out of today?
Hello, can you hear me?
We got you, James. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm all right. How about yourself?
And can't complain.
So the one guy with that,
Well, I had you. You just got real choppy real quick on us. Say it again.
oh man, this thing is messing up when driving.
We just caught. I think you might be good now. Try again. All right. Well, we wait on James. Who else? What's something else somebody else wants to get out of it?
I guess it could be like, what are like some of the opening conversation starters?
Okay.
Like for different different events or places where you are? Like what could be initial conversation, question or something of interest that you could spark up a conversation with someone that you don't know?
Perfect, very good. You know what? And I realize my handwriting is just as bad as this as it is on the board, so. All right, James, try again. Let's see if we get you.
Can you hear me now?
Here we got you.
Okay, so I was gonna say, like, as far as like networking, I don't have much of a problem like with actually physically talking to somebody like face to face. It's more of the networking online. Like for me, like networking online, I guess like how to do that, because that's where I'm struggling at right now. I haven't been able to really get that part going as far as like the online networking. I mean, of course you can request friends, you got people on your page, but like what to post and just, I don't know. I just like, if I post like random stuff, I don't know whether I should just be posting like just like anything, or just anything to spark a debate or something, like questions or something. I don't know.
All right, that's a good one. That's a real good one.
I have something else.
Go ahead.
This isn't so much as, this is to the main question on the board, what are some challenges to networking? I only speak a little bit, but I know there's people, I only speak for myself a little bit, but I know there's a lot of people who do have this, that do have this struggle. But for me in the beginning, it was fear. Just generally, I know a lot of people who, and I hear about it from other agents, but not in this office too. That just the fear of social interaction in general, and then like you always hear people, it's at least at the beginning stages, they're afraid to make that call to either the friends. Some people it's their friends, some people it's the just regular online,
Yeah.
just fear in general.
I'll add to that. Like, I think we probably recognize that I'm probably open, outgoing, and don't mind jumping out there and anything, but I co-sign the fear. Like when it comes to networking, there's a fear that I'm a house of cards. I get that fear all the damn time, right? That I'm gonna get into a circle and I won't know what I'm talking about, or somebody calls me out. So I have that. So I can understand that. Anything else? We got a good list so far. Anything else we want to get out of today? All right. So we take this list, and I don't know if this is going to save. I'm trying this brand new, but if this saves, we'll be able to come back to it and see if we conquered everything on this list. So the first thing when it comes to networking, the very first thing that I'll tell you, when we talk about time management, when we go through it and being purposeful with anything we go through, I'll be honest with you, the biggest challenge we run into is time. Like, you got to understand the value of time. Like, time is a finite resource, right? You can't replenish it. It can't be recovered. Once it's spent, it's lost. So if you were networking, you were engaging, you were coming across anybody else, just think about the time that they just spent with you. They will never get that time back. How are you affecting or influencing their life in that brief interaction that you had, right? Is your interaction influencing them? Is it giving them the ability to accomplish a task, achieve a goal, experience something different in their life? Like, you got to make that time worthwhile. Like, time is an opportunity cost. If you think about your time as how you're getting a return on it, then everybody that you come across, you start looking at differently. But conversely, you want to be more impactful with each moment that you spend with somebody, right? So, I think about it all the time. Like when I coach the kids, I am sacrificing things that I can do in this office, things that I can do in my business. I can't get that time back. I can't go back to a client and say, oh man, well, let's go back and redo yesterday. You can't get that. I can't miss an opportunity to connect with somebody. Matter of fact, I was supposed to be on Friday. I got invited to go to an event. Now, the person, and this kind of plays into, I'll use this as a great opportunity. This is a person that I've met at an event, another broker of another company. I had a conversation with that broker. They have a financial background that they are part of. And that financial background, I said, I'll be happy to talk to people in your world. This person reached out to me and they were having this huge event at their house. It was going to be on Friday. It just passed. They were having execs from several different companies, some of the people that I know who are Fortune 500 business owners, or chief of staffs in some instances. Who's who to-do list that instead of telling me what she was putting all these people together for, she just named the names and you should want to be there off GP. Well, I got to think about my time. On Friday, I was scheduled to go out with my wife and her friends. Like, this is the first time that we were all going on a trip together. Matter of fact, this group that we went with, we were supposed to go to Spain when COVID hit. We haven't had a chance to just go anywhere since then, just based on their professions. So we were all going to Philly. And in Philly, I also had a meeting with another KW up there on Friday. So I had to do an opportunity cost. Where would I get the biggest return on my investment? Would it be going to this house to be at that event, or would it be networking with my wife and, you know, our friends? There's opposite side opportunity cost. Had I not been there with my wife, I wouldn't have been able to go anywhere with her ever again. I needed to be at that trip. But I also had meetings that I scheduled in Philly that were going to carry weight for things that I want to do in the future and conversations we want to have. And the event that was there, I'm going to go through some strategies of why I decided not to go through that event based upon things that I'll look at before I network. See, one thing that I try to do at all times is make sure that if I know my time is precious, if I know that anybody I interact with time is precious, that means then what I have to do is be purposeful in all things. And when it comes into networking, if you really want to be purposeful, then anything that you go to, any event that you want to be at, right? If we want to know the conversation starters to go into, we should attend anything that we're doing from a networking standpoint and have a goal associated with it. I want to come across somebody that I'm going to have a conversation with. What's the goal for the conversation? If I'm going to an event, I need to have a clear goal that will be there. And Lana will tell you, when we went to Austin for whatever the last trip was, we went together. As we're in the Uber getting off the plane, we had a conversation of, all right, what are the things that you want to walk away with? This is what I'm going to walk away with. I set a goal in place to understand what I'm going in for. I think that is probably the most crucial thing that answers half the questions that we had on the board, from whatever you're fearful of, to not having a conversation starter or wanting to have a conversation starter and not feeling confident in it. If you have a goal of what you want to achieve, it helps you stay purposeful. It gives you focus and you can be efficient. You can be in and be out and not waste anybody's time and get exactly what you need. So their goals list. We're going to look at the goals, kind of broken down in 4 steps, right? First part of the goal that we need to have is having a clear focus, right? When you set specific networking goals, the clarity that you have helps you engage in any single conversation. It helps define why you even attended the event or why you're even engaging in that activity. And it also lets you know if you had success when you were at that event or not. You know, another finite resource that you have is your energy. And there are times that you go into an event and you have the worst energy, or you have the best energy, but you contact somebody whose energy is completely off, which I'll show this slide just because it gives an example of, you could be warm and fuzzy, go to somebody who's just completely cold and gray, right? Well, for us, if you're focused, you will know when to bounce from that conversation to the next one, just based off of you having clarity of what you're trying to accomplish. The second thing is be very targeted. Oops, sorry. All right, be very targeted, right? If you're targeting your approach, you're going to identify the individuals, the groups, organizations, or whatever it is that you need to connect with. You can tailor every activity that you have whenever you are networking to target the right people, the right opportunities, anything that aligns with your objective. This is that focused approach. It increases the likelihood of you making meaningful connections, which, what we see on the board, making deep relationships with others. We go into item C, which is be clear on your objective. So when you're clear on your objective, you know what you can get out of that. You get accountability, right? It allows you to set goals that you can achieve, but then you're also more likely to take consistent action. End of the day, half the things that we do is about taking action, right? If you have your goals and your outline set, it makes it fairly easy for you to be able to take action over and over again. But then you know what's great? Take that same conversation that I had with Alana about what are you going to work on when we go to this class, when we go to this event, who are you going to have a conversation with? You know what the follow-up is to it? Did you have the conversations you wanted to have? If not, why? What do you need to do to have it? Who can I introduce you to? Just by having a clear objective, you can share it with somebody else. And I'll tell you this part. I'm a firm believer that phrase, you speak what you want into an existence, right? If I'm going to an event and I want to meet Mike Tyson, for instance, and I know he's gonna be there, then I need to tell somebody, I want to meet Mike Tyson. Can you make that happen? And not even if I say, can you make it happen, just say if I want to meet him, guess what? If Brian's in a conversation with Mike Tyson and he knows my goal is to have a conversation with him, what are you gonna do when you see me walk by? Grab him and say, Brandon, here's Mike Tyson. I want you to have a conversation. Speak your goals into existence. Speak to other people. That's where your accountability partner comes in handy. All right, and then the next goal that you should have is network effectively, right? So have effectiveness. If you're thinking about networking, you should be using this to build a mutual beneficial relationship. Speaking of, hold on, Juwan, you gonna be here for a minute?
Yeah.
All right, you coming in?
No.
All right. All right, I'm gonna come grab you once I finish. I'm gonna call you, I need to grab it on something. All right. All right, so build mutually beneficial relationships, right? So when you set goals, you communicate. So just think about if I use that same example of wanting to meet Mike Tyson, having Brian there, and I told him out loud that, when I go in, I do want to meet Mike Tyson. That'd be awesome if I can get that accomplished. And Brian lets me know, man, you know what? Well, you know what I was looking at doing as well? I would love to get to know Jane Fonda. I don't know what event we're at, because they both will be there, but if that's the case, then here we are, right? And so now if I know Jane and I'm having a conversation with her, she's having a conversation with Mike, that gives us a chance to not only interact, but find out what's a benefit to the people that we're talking to. Because if I know Jane wants to do a new physical therapy or do a personal training tape, and she wants to do some type of combat sport with it, Brian introduces me to Mike. Now I get something I can bring to Mike Tyson. Like, you know what? I got a great person to connect you with. We just did something very effective that connected other people in their world. Everybody benefits from it. Those are the meaningful, productive, but powerful interactions that we can go through. But it only happens if you share your objective or you have goals going into an event. So this part is where I started thinking about this class, and we were talking about it because I don't nearly get invited to as much stuff as I used to, but I used to get invited to a lot. And then you'd have to choose what you should go to because you can't make everything. There was an event that one of our agents was going to put on, and they wanted me to be one of the guest speakers. But I had to ask them, like, what's the event about? What's going forward, right? Because you can't make everything. So sometimes you need to know just simple questions that are up there. What is the events? Why would I want to attend? What will I get from being there? And how can you expand your network from being there? So those are just general questions that you're going to ask this network. And what I found is I had to balance things. I had to balance the quantity of the events versus the quality of being there. Because the reality of networking is it's not about just accumulating a whole bunch of connections. In our world, yes, we want all the contacts we can possibly have. And networking isn't always just getting contacts. We are trying to build meaningful relationships. We want to be impactful with people that we come across. They can become your strongest advocates. So while, yes, we cast a wide net, we don't ever want to overlook the quality of any interaction that we can come across. If we focus on building that strong connection, rather than just spreading yourself too thin, you start to prioritize opportunities that provide a better chance for deeper, more meaningful connections. So understanding what's an opportunity that could be there. Well, if you're going to an event, evaluate the relevance. What's the purpose of this event? Why are they hosting it? What are they getting out of it? What can I get out of being there? Know your target audience. Who is going to be at this event that I should associate with, that I shouldn't associate with? And then think about your time. What is the time commitment that it's going to take you to attend, to be a part of, and what's your potential for return? So I'm going to go back to 2 events for me. Last Saturday, I was invited to an event. And I actually turned this one down because I did this simple thing. I looked at what's the relevance of the event. What am I going for? What's going to be there? Now, I don't need this to be political in one way or another, but the event that I was going to was in support of someone whose political views I do not associate with. And I don't know if it's known or not that I'm associated with it, but I didn't want to be associated with them. And going to that event, one thing that would happen was every photo opportunity that they would get, they were taking that photo opportunity and broadcasting that for the world to see. As much as I would have loved to be there and rub shoulders with some high important people, that is not the room that I need to be in, because like I said, it's just not the audience that I need to be a part of, right? It's not relevant for me to be a part of that event. The event that was on Friday, I had to research. I researched the people who were going to be there, and some of the people I found that I already have connections with. So now I have a way to follow up with them, like, hey man, I know you were invited to Lou's thing and we didn't get a chance to meet each other there. Want to have lunch with you just to follow up and just to press connect. I got a way, I know my audience, so I know when I can catch them again. Everybody who was there that I either want to meet or knows each other, I now have a path to go meet them. So if I don't attend that event, I can still get everything out of it. I know what was going to be presented there, so now I can talk to them about it afterwards, they can present it to me. And then that just goes back to assessing the time and the resources required. So when I looked at that event on Friday, that would have took me away from spending a quality night out with friends and family. It probably would have caused a huge kerfuffle, which is a nice way of saying I would have been in the doghouse for months at home, right? The return on that investment damn sure wasn't worth it. But knowing the people who were there ahead of time, I now know that I can go back and meet with them and get everything I need out of it. So it's just that constant assessment of what's taking place and what's going forward. So we wanted to go through strategies. All right, so I'm gonna give you strategies. I'm gonna break down 10 categories, 10 strategies that we go through and use to help prioritize and understand kind of my checklist that I go through when it comes to what I'm gonna do when I'm networking and how I am active in trying to be purposeful with this. So the very first thing, very first practical tip that I go through is just being prepared, right? So before attending any networking event or a meeting, just have an idea of who's going to be in the room. Sometimes you won't get to know, but sometimes you can go back and look and see who attended past events, who else knows about it, who's promoted on their page, just little things like that, just so you can get an idea of who's going to be. Now, if you have an idea of who will be there, you know the purpose of an event, it can help you have an understanding of what you can achieve when you go to this type of event. Is this going to be, what was in Ocean City every year? The Maryland Realtor Convention. It used to be in Ocean City every year. I stopped going because I realized one thing, all it was a big bar fest in Ocean City. Now I built some great relationships out there, but I could actually go meet some of these people at the bar here and not have to go to Ocean City for it. Right? Now, what I will say is it is an experience and there's a lot of education and so on and so forth that you can get out of it. But if it's back in Ocean City this year, you won't find it. The second thing, we talked about it earlier, set goals. If you establish specific goals for each networking interaction, it could be to meet somebody, gather information, seek out potential opportunities. Just having a goal will help you stay focused. And it will also give you that spark of the conversation starter that you need. Example of this. When we went to Orlando for family reunion, I wanted to walk away with one specific thing. How did somebody actually two? One thing between each. I wanted to talk to other team leaders, market center owners who have established a title company and established a transaction management company. So in every interaction that I went through, that was my topic of conversation. Hey, Jim, it's great to meet you. Where are you out of? Oh, you're out of New Mexico. Awesome. Tell me about your market center. And then for them to tell me about the market center, the question I really wanted to know, and I'm actively listening, which we'll see later on, is as they give me the information on their market center, do you have a title company? Great. If so, tell me how you started. Now I can go through the list of questions that I want to have with that. The next side of it is, do you have a transaction management company? Awesome. How did you get that started? What takes place from there? Now, I've met close to let's say 100, 120 people. I had that conversation with almost everybody that I met. How many data sets do I have now? How much information did I walk away with? And now from that, other people that I would talk to, they would know, oh, you're looking at building a title company? This guy did one too, you need to meet him. It opens the door up to have more, but I was extremely focused and targeted with what conversation I wanted to go into. So I would tell you, if you have a goal that you start off with, it makes it easier for you to know what conversation to start and where to be. Now, let's tie this into just normal day-to-day interaction. Well, you should always know that day, if you come across somebody, what would you do when you see them? Are you marketing your real estate business? Are you marketing your car wash services? Or are you marketing whatever else that it is that you do? You're wearing one of those hats when you meet. How are you going through, which you're gonna see one of my, or actually it's number 3, perfect, create an elevator pitch. You need to have a concise and compelling introduction about yourself. Something that highlights your skills, your expertise, and what you can bring to the table. And you should be able to rehearse this over and over again. And I know it sounds corny, I know it sounds cheesy, but honestly, all professionals do is they rehearse and they practice until they get it perfected. So if you're looking in the mirror, practice your script, practice what you go through. And here's the funny thing, it doesn't have to sound perfect. I'll give you an example. So say I don't know Mike in the room. Mike, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing good.
Hey, man, let's see, where were we? Matter of fact, so we're in a grocery store together. Right, just a random interaction. Real life scenario, because I think real life has, and we go back to the relationships, it all starts with one point of interest. Mike's walking in with his Superman shirt on. Got a Superman ring on, and I've heard about Superman Mike. Any chance you're Superman Mike?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, man, I heard some cool things about you. Matter of fact, your brother was the main person who was talking about you. He thinks the world of you, man, and it's awesome to get a chance to meet you. He mentioned that you were in real estate. Is that correct?
Yeah, I am gonna say, yeah, I got the California Flexi right now on the house.
Dude, that's phenomenal. I heard they got a bunch of cool people in office.
Yeah, no, lots of cool people, great place, place to work.
Awesome, man. So how long have you been in real estate, and what's your biggest success or challenge that you're going through right now?
Yeah, no, I've been in real estate for almost a year, almost, like 8 months or something like that. Yeah, no, real estate's going great. Businesses, I just had a closing recently, so I just had 8 closing recently. So
Dude, it's phenomenal.
yeah, things are looking, things are going good.
So in 8 months, that's the first closing you went through, dude. I know a lot of people, they don't even close in their first year. So you get one in 8 months, it's awesome, man. It's huge, absolutely huge. Man, well, I just wanted to let you know about me. So I got 2 that I'll go through. So, man, it just so happens that I actually am part owner in a real estate brokerage. It's kind of strange how it worked out, and it's just awesome to be in a position where you cultivate some relationships, things work out. But man, I would love to pick your brain for a little bit. And obviously we're in the store right now, and I got to run in a second, but you mind if we connect a little bit later on? I just want to ask you a few questions just to make sure that I'm doing what's best for my agents and how things are going for them.
Yeah, sure, yeah, absolutely.
Connection made, right? In a lending world when I was a lender. So I would have pivoted from this. Dude, so you had it closing at 8 months. Man, Mike, I got something I want to introduce you to. So I've been connected with real estate for years. I've been helping a lot of agents in that office. I did some financing for them and work with a lot of their clients. I got some strategies and tips that some of those other agents are using. You mind if we grab coffee next week and I'll just show you some of those things that they're using? If it works for you, then by all means, man, take them and run with it. But just want to share with you since you're in office with a bunch of great people.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, I'd love to learn more about you. Yeah,
There you go. So in that, for me, that elevator pitch is something simple of just how do you explain who you are and what you do? And having the confidence in explaining it means a couple of different things. One, be confident in who you are and what you go through and what you do. But then the way that you can confidently express it, I will use my owner hat. The way that I always introduce myself on that side is a little bit humble and shy to a point. And it depends on what conversation I'm in, because if I can gauge who I'm talking to, then I can gauge like what confident way that I'll go about it, right? So my confident and shy is like, and this is the exact response I get every time. Oh, you know what you know, you're there for a reason. You got to tell more people, tell the world. Great. Well, let me find a time for us to get together and I can talk a little bit more about what we go through and do, and then you can just see what we have. Because I don't like to boast and brag, but at the same time, there's certain things that have been accomplished that need to be shared, right? So my rehearsed conversation is modestly, almost shyly explaining what I own, who I am, and what I go through and do. When I was a lender, there was no modesty there. It was I'm the best. I know what I go through. I help people. You need to be in my world, right? And I knew who to have that conversation with. So as you go through and you explain and you practice your elevator pitch, you should really have like 3. And honestly, I would tell you 4. If you guys, do you know the DISC assessment by chance? Anybody know that? Anybody ever heard of that? A DISC assessment. DISC. All right, so if you Google DISC assessment, you should have one that's pulled up. What the DISC assessment does is it just breaks down people into different categories. It essentially says through every type of personality there is on earth, they can really be broken down into 4 different categories. In those 4 different categories, they show up different in different situations. So when you're relaxed, you show up one way. When you're stressed or when you're at work, you show up another way, right? So the D, let's see how many slides I got. All right, I can go through this story real quick. All right, so this personality is this. So the easiest way to explain it is I'll give 2 scenarios. One in the elevator, other one driving through traffic. So you get inside the elevator and you get in the elevator and you press, all right, I'm going to the 10th floor. And you're the only person on there, but you keep banging on that 10 like the door is going to close fast and the elevator is going to move even faster. Usually that's a sign of a D personality, right? Well, then the I personality walks onto this elevator. Now the elevator has several people. I personality is that one who's interpersonally engaging, who's just involved with everybody. So as we go to each floor, that I personality is that person like, boom, next floor, lingerie, finding random reasons to have conversations with them. A great example of that I personality is if we've seen that Progressive commercial where you don't want to be like your father, and he's like, man, you just did terrible because you kept talking about the girl from Paris and everything else. That's not I personality, always talking. We can kind of tell who an I personality is, right? I'm a high I, high D. Your next personality is the S. So the S is the person who's on the elevator, the doors are about to close, somebody's running up, and that S holds the door open to make sure they can get on, and then looks like, well, you know what, you can jump on, I'll jump on. Right? The S is really accommodating. You know, they want to be one with the world and be whole with all. And then you have your C. Your C personality is on that elevator, and they look and they say, all right, well, there's 10 people on here. Each person weighs about 180 pounds. The maximum weight of this elevator is 1,900 pounds. You know what? I'm getting my ass off this elevator. I don't trust him. That C personality is always calculating, always thinking, right? So those 4 personalities are typically how everybody operates, right? And the whole time that D is just banging on that button. Take that same personality, put it in traffic. So your D personality is in traffic. They're the person who's swerving lane to lane, just trying to cut every car off. Just, I got to get to where I'm going. I don't care who's in my way. I'm going to get there. Your I personality, to be honest with you, they don't even realize they're in traffic because they're talking the whole time on the phone. And they just know that I'm in the car, I'm on the phone. I'm not worried about anything else because I'm just getting a chance to talk to somebody. Your S personality, they're probably the person who just got cut off by the D personality. Now they can be yelling at them, cursing, but they're not really blowing their horn. They're just keeping it inside their car. They also are trying to be strategic, going lane to lane, just to make sure that they can get to where they need to be safely, but also get there on time, right? And then there's your C personality. You know where your C personality is in traffic? They're not. C personality already checked ways, knew there was traffic, and they went a completely different way, so they didn't get involved. So if you can understand those personality types, you can understand them quickly in a conversation, then you can know which intro you need to have to a person. Your D personality, I want to know who you are quick, what you got going on, and why do I need to know? My I personality, I'll sit here and I'll talk to you all day long. I'm a high I, high D, and depending on which day you catch me on, you'll probably know which one is shining. I'm also a Gemini, that's a whole nother story. Your S personalities, some of them are going to be, your S and your C is going to be a little bit skeptical of that conversation, right? Why are you talking to? Who are you? What are you trying to get out of it? What is this conversation going over? Your S personality type is the person who, once they find out that there is a reason to be engaged with you, that they'll continue the conversation and keep going forward. Your C person is probably really just overly calculating you and debating on, is it even worth continuing to have a conversation, let alone build a relationship. You can win each one of these people over if you do number 4. If you listen actively, you listen and engage. Even when you were giving your story, I'm feeding things back to you that you told me, right? I actively listen. When we go through, I heard what everybody wanted to learn out of this class, because now I know what do we need to touch base on, what do we need to cover, what do we need to go through. And James, we're going to dig into yours, and I'm trying to leave enough time because I really want to debate how do we market online and how we use some of these tips to get there as well. That being said, let's move forward. So the next strategy that we go through. I think number 4 and number 5 are probably the two most important. 4 was listen actively, and number 5 is the reality to this is you have to be yourself, right? Be authentic, be genuine. People will connect with you if they know that you are authentic. If you say you want to help people and you actually show up as somebody who helps, they'll pay attention to you. If you say that you want to take advantage of somebody and that's who you genuinely are, I will tell you how people will interpret it. A lot of people will be like, all right, great. Well, when I figure out a way that I could use you the same way that you use me, then we're going to do something together. It doesn't stop me from working with you. It just lets me know who I'm going to deal with. Right? Like, it's a lot easier if you can see the snake in the grass and you don't. And the part that I'll tell you that you want to avoid is coming across overly salesman. So even in our interaction in the grocery store, now my loan officer of, hey, you need to come do a deal with me is a little bit more aggressive. But if you know that I'm a lender and that's what I go through, well, on one side it may be a little salesy. The other side of it is, you know what my intention is. You know where I'm coming from. You know what conversation I'm going to have. All right, so number 6, we talk about it frequently, which is set goals, right? In the goals that we had, if there was something that you wanted to receive. Now, I'm a flawed individual with this. And sometimes the best way to get better at something is to teach it so you can see what you do wrong. Making priority your follow-up. Follow-up is one of the, you want to know what it takes to be a great real estate agent? Just follow up. If you can follow up, you'll beat half of the real estate agents out there. 9 times out of 10, you had a client that wanted to buy with you. He didn't want to buy exactly at that moment. It might have taken another 16 months, but if you kept following up, you would go with you. Sometimes if you follow up for a matter of years, they'll do business. They'll do business with you. The person who can follow up the best always wins. It's the secret of being a real estate agent. You really want to know the secret in all the other classes, follow up is the key. One thing you can do with network, so that interaction in the grocery store, the interaction at the daycare or somewhere else, if you get their contact information, if you send them a follow-up note, it should engage in something that you listened that they said or something that came up in your conversation. But this is where some of the online things come into play, where, you know, typically it was always write a little note, send an email, shoot a text. But then if you go on to LinkedIn, you go on to Facebook, you go on those places and you send them a direct message relating to that conversation, it no longer looks canned. And then it opens the door to have a genuine relationship. At the end of the day, you want to build that relationship, and sending that says that you paid attention to that person, you know who they are, and you know what they represent. Number 7, offer value. So when we network, when we engage, it's a two-way street, right? You should be looking for an opportunity to provide some value to someone else, right? And so in the example that I did when I ran through just kind of meeting Mikey at the grocery store, it was, hey, on the brokerage side, hello, I'm going to share with you strategies that we know, but also want to hear what's working for you so I can spread that to others. Well, what I'm giving him an opportunity to be is an expert in whatever he has going on. Even if he knows nothing, he gets a chance to be an expert in that information he has. But then you guys know me, and I preach 3 things: engage, work, and share. Share your knowledge, offer assistance. If you're sharing, it comes off genuine that you do have the intent that you want to help with somebody. And number 8, you know, if we go to an event and you see somebody who is working the room and it looks like they know everybody, everybody's gravitating to them, 9 times out of 10, they've been managing their network, because networking is a process. It's not about one and done. It's about making an effort to continue to nurture those conversations, those connections. How are you staying in touch with the people? You know, are you a person who's genuine and offers support? Because, you know, I went to an event 2 years ago. It was the first time that I went to a real estate event in Baltimore in 5 years. It was funny walking through that room. So just getting background on my story, you guys know that I jumped out of the real estate world and started my business consulting business. And I had hospitality contracts and I was traveling across the country. So I wasn't in Baltimore at all. And I just really wasn't involved just in this area. So I jumped back in as, you know, part owner in TL. I started going to some of the networking events, and I'm seeing people who haven't seen me in years, and they are just, where have you been? What's been going on? And I'm having all these wonderful conversations. And the people I was like, how do you know all this? If you haven't seen them in years, they still remember you, remember the name. Even the people who we couldn't remember each other's names, remember the faces, and remember we worked on something together. And it was because when I was deeply involved, I was sending periodic messages. And then I always offer to support. You guys know me that I want to connect people whenever I can. So it was my ability to provide connections and connect with others that continues to drive relationships, even when I'm not physically there and present, that people still want to engage and be a part of what's going on. So if you want to have that, if you can do number 6, follow up, right? And you start maintaining that network, you eventually get to a network where now you can't go in anywhere without somebody recognizing you and wanting to have a conversation. So last 2 strategies. All right, I will give you this. You have to diversify your network. You know, anybody who's came in recently, you know that as I talk to you, I talk about your world you had outside of real estate. I talk about that world because it makes a difference. You have an area of expertise, you have insights, you have viewpoints from a world that a lot of agents don't have, a lot of clients don't get to hear from that perspective. Share that information, right? But continue to network and talk to people in different worlds. Because if you go through, and if my social media feed has nothing but real estate agents on it, great, you know I'm a realtor, but then I'm secluded off to what else is going on in the world. If you can understand the plight that other people go through, if you can have insight to it, if you can gain knowledge of it, it makes you a dangerous person to begin with. But it gives you that knowledge of other worlds. Like we just need to broaden our horizons and we'll get there. And then the last one, get back to your network first. Relationships are reciprocal. And if people see that you were the first one to jump in and give something, then immediately they will do the same. They will be more adept to jump in, give something back, or help you whenever you're in time of need. My little cousin, he's a great example of this. Now, I don't know what happened over the weekend, but I have an idea. I know we bank at the same bank, and the bank was down for whatever reason. And it looked like it was just an issue on something, but I was able to access my money and had no issues. But he put a message online like, hey, my accounts are frozen. I can't get into anything and I have stuff coming up. I need help. And within a matter of minutes, he had people just pouring and giving him whatever he needed. And he runs a church and he's like, whatever event he had going on, everybody just came and funded that event just like that. Well, you only get that way when you've done so much for your network. And I can tell you that my cousin is a person who has done community events. He gives food to kids, toys to kids. He has drives. He literally will buy groceries from a few distributors and give it out to neighborhoods. So he's always active and engaged and the first one to give. And in that moment that he needed, everybody gave back to him so much so that he was like, all right, I got to start giving refunds now because I only needed this for a specific reason. I got more than enough. What should we do with the extra money? And then gave it right back to him. So if you get back to your network first, you will see that it'll come back tenfold and in many different ways. All right, so maintaining follow-up is the next step of what is important. So I mentioned it before, but networking is an ongoing process. You guys are going to work your butts off to build connections, to build relationships, right? And if you do that, you might as well take that extra step. You've already busted your butt to do the hard part of meeting the people. Now just do the little extra efforts to maintain a relationship. And, you know, we teach one thing, leverage with half the things that we do. This is where you can leverage technology and communicating with the network. After you built a relationship, so everybody on this call, if you got random follow-up emails from me, matter of fact, and some of the emails we get from the market center that come from me are automated emails that go out. I'm sure you guys don't mind receiving them because we built a relationship, you know where we're coming from, and you know there is something genuine in the intent with the information that we're sending out. But then an example that just happened, what was it, 2 months ago, where we had the guy who tried to spam everybody saying that he was me and trying to get gift cards out of everybody. So you didn't get it. What ended up happening, there's a guy, and this will happen a couple times throughout the year. Somebody will text saying they're myself, they're Mark, they're Alana, or they're Doug. And hey, we're in an emergency. We need you to send us gift cards for X, Y, and Z. And it's somebody who's just fishing in the scheme. Well, it was crazy because so many people from the market center reached out to me and they were asking the question, like, what's going on? What do you need? And I was like, first, that definitely wasn't me. But the second side is I'm humbled that not many people would reach out off of a random message that comes forward. But it's if you do good things for people, you maintain your network, those things will come back when you need it, but then you'll also be able to filter things out when they don't hit. All right, so for the most part, that was most of just a general brief presentation about time management, right? And what we needed to go through to overcome. But I wanted to go back and I really wanted to ask some questions because I think this is something where we all can help each other. All right, so online networking. I don't have the biggest social media platform. I don't have the biggest following, and I will never claim to. And if I do, you need to be worried. But I used to have a conversation with Corey before he passed about this because lead generation looks different in today's world than it did 10 years ago. And a large part of it is instead of everything being picking up the phone, going to meet somebody in person, a lot of it is doing online marketing. So as a question to the group, and let's walk this through, right? Because we got strategies that we went through. And I think these strategies can go forward with everything. But what does it look like? So, and John, I'll start with you, or James, I'll start with you, sorry. It's, you see what a post, somebody sees your post, they respond to it. What do you mean with networking online?
So I mean, it could be a post, it could be, but when I say networking online, I mean like I guess like posting it more people, to maybe approach you about business or something like that. I don't know. I mean, well, yeah, like something like that. That's basically what I'm talking about. Like, I don't know, putting a post out there where people will like respond to it or something like that.
Oh, in that case, that's more of the marketing world that goes into it, right? So if you have a marketing piece that's out there, this is where Corey and I would have that conversation of at what point does that marketing piece gives you leads? And when does that lead become a contact? And on the social media world, he would challenge that the contact is a little bit different than them just responding to your post. So the response to your post, the key things that are always there is the speed at which that you can communicate back to them and the authenticity you have in your response. Those two things have been taught and they were preached to me over and over again. The key to speed is if they are sending you a message now, you want to be able to respond as quickly as possible because that way you can catch them in the moment. But then also the authenticity aspect is there's so many bots that are online, and we have some, right, that we use. If they know that they're talking to a live person, you're going to get a different response than if they're talking to a bot. So if you can communicate somewhat authentically to whatever your ad was, whatever you just found about them, because 9 times out of 10, when that person responds to you, you pull up their profile to see who they are and what they go through. So, instead of listening intently, you're researching to find out who you're in a conversation with, and then be engaging in that conversation as you go forward. At some point, that conversation needs to move from being online to in your traditional platforms. Here's why. When it's online, you don't have control of, and you can't gauge that person's level of interest. You only know they're interested when they are responding to you. But if they are taking time to think over something, if they have questions that they want to look up in Google, you no longer know where they are. So, in core strategy that he would go through is at the point that I know that we're engaging in a conversation back and forth, he would always use something of, hey, I'm glad that we started this conversation. And I know sometimes words can get mixed up. Before we get to that point, I would love to continue this conversation either offline and we can probably exchange information or move to a platform where we can have a record of what we go through just to make sure that we can pinpoint what our conversation is. And by just doing it that way, now it went from being a lead, it went from, something that you both post. And I guess the networking aspect would be you both post on somebody's random post and your comments now lead you off into another thread. By doing that, you now can go back into the normal form of interaction with a contact, but that seems to be the most effective way that people are using it. But I would tell you, even if you are, and I don't want to use fishing in this context, if you are prospecting using social media or prospecting online to engage people in conversations, our strategies that we went through still hold true. You still have to put in you still have to have the goal up front. You still have to have the target conversations that you want to get into. You still need to know where you're directing that conversation and what you want to get out of it. So you still approach it with the same tactic or with the same strategy. Your tactic of how do you get them to actually engage in a meaningful, deeper conversation, you just eventually have to move from being online to in a subset of that platform. All right, so let's go through the others that are on here, because I know we're approaching 2 o'clock right now. So the first thing that we mentioned was we want to recognize opportunities. So if you go into any networking conversation, any event that you happen to be in, you've rehearsed your script, your spiel. You know what event you're going into. You know who's going to be there. Do you think that that gives you a better opportunity to recognize what opportunities will be inside that one? Okay. So we said we got a good understanding of that one. Opening conversation starters. So I'll tie this into also being prepared with a plan. If you have a plan going in, and using my example of wanting to find out about title companies and having a transaction management company, I went into an event where it's just wide open family reunion. Everybody's gonna be talking about everything. I had a conversation starter because I knew what I wanted to get to. So I knew where I could direct that conversation and where to be in. If you go into any of those situations with a plan in hand, you can have your conversation starter based upon anything. So know your event. If you know the event, you can have a conversation starter just based on the event. Oh, I didn't know you were associated with SBCAA. What is your affection with paws and dogs? Oh, great. Well, you're going to the Baltimore Real Producers event. I am too. Are you an agent or what field are you in? Little things like that, just knowing the event gives you a way to have a conversation. But then know what you want to accomplish and what you want to broadcast for yourself, right? In your elevator pitch, and let you know where you need to go in your conversation starter. I think we all can agree that we can conquer any fear that we have if we go into a situation prepared. If we know the who, the what, the how, what we want to get out of it, it takes that fear out of everything. The only one that I could say that we really didn't touch base on was that house of cards. And I'll be honest with you, I ain't figured that answer out. So if any of y'all know how to not feel like a house of cards, please let me know. Because some days it sticks with us. But I think the only way that you get past that is forever learning and always engaging people in conversations of, hey, I want to know more, I want to do more, I want to be better. What can you share with me that can help me get to that point? So if that's the case.
Would you say overall too, just generally speaking, that like practice gets better?
So would I say that practice makes perfect? Absolutely.
Because no one's gonna be able to.
So here's the crazy part. Like, I know, like, this is the thing. If you would have asked me like 5 years ago about even having a conversation around teaching a class of network, I would have looked at you like you're crazy. Like, it's not scripted, it's not rehearsed. You're just genuine, you have a natural hit back and you just know how to connect with people. But the reality to anything that we do is, and this comes from, and I have 6-person perspectives on here, and you get this out of 6-person perspectives, but what are you mastering? And understand that whether you are actively trying to master something or not, you are training yourself, you are practicing something. Every conversation you have with somebody, you're practicing how to have a conversation starter, right? Every day that, so I'm gonna use my son because he's 9 right now, and I see him do this every day. And I'm telling him, you gotta be purposeful with your actions. Something as simple as, I don't know why the boy doesn't want to tie his shoes. But you think you're the fastest kid in the world, but you're walking around with shoes untied, and guess what? You now run like your shoes are untied. So even when your shoes are tied up, you're still running like your shoes are untied. You're training your body to do things the wrong way, or you can train your body to do it the right way. So think about your real estate business, think about networking. What are you training yourself to do? Every single day that you wake up and you say that you are actively engaged in real estate, or you're actively engaged in connecting and working through others. How are you training yourself that day? So yes, practice makes perfect, but you're getting practice every single day. To further that point, everybody should be looking at a couple of classes, right? Bold is going to come up in October. If you have not taken Bold, you need to take Bold. Part of what we went through just today is going through strategies, tips, and techniques of how to better network. And Bold, you're going to be challenged to do what's called a Bold 100. The Bold 100 is to talk to 100 people in a day. Sounds like a crazy thing to do. I didn't think it was like, and I hear people say, oh yeah, I did it, blah, blah, blah. I thought people were just lying, making it up, or they were just standing at the grocery store, just hey, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? And not really making a meaningful relationship. They were just saying they talked to 100 people. And I did it. I did a bowl of 100. And I actually talked to 107 people that day. The crazy part was I did it so fast, I did it in 2 hours. You don't know what you're in front of until you're there and you're purposeful with your intention. I had a home buying seminar where we had 87 people show up. It wasn't purposeful with gold. It wasn't on my intent. It was just a scheduled part of the day. And I'm sitting there thinking, how am I going to talk to 100 people in a day? And now I'm in front of the room and I'm doing me and I'm talking about all these strategies, tips, and techniques of what we're going to go through. And what I realized is between everybody who worked here, the staff that I talked to, everybody in that room, I just had a conversation with 100 people. And it hit me as I was getting towards the end of presenting, and I started thinking like, now if I can get all of their contact information, we're there. All right, I want to get everybody's information because I want to share something with you after this. Everybody gave me all their contact information. Total of 107 contacts, right there, 2 hours. But you ask the question, do you practice it? Well, I practiced what I was going to say in front of the room over and over again, and I practiced it enough that now I'm convinced, I'm confident in what I say that people want to be there. Did I know that I would talk to 100 people that day? Hell no. I mean, the reality is, how often do you think that you're going to be in an event where you're going to talk to 100 people? How often do you think that will happen? But it comes across. James, your question about being online, like the reality is you probably talk to 100 people online. Are they all effective? I think that's where Corey was getting to. If I can take that conversation from being online to now pull them out, they go from being a avatar or in the metaverse to now being a real life conversation that we have. So yeah, practice it, go through it. I mean, I'm put on here a quote from Socrates. Yeah, I'm not that deep. It just so happens he's in a book that I was reading. But an unexamined life is not worth living. That class that I put on here, 6 Personal Perspectives, that is something that I'm teaching. I'm teaching in Ocean City, actually, which I give you guys credit. You guys got to hear me teach. It's the first time that I've taught in our market center in the last few months. I mean, I know I do the monthly meetings, but to actually go through and put my information down on paper and present it in a fashion, I haven't done it in a while, not for any other reason, just because we've had some other priorities. So I appreciate you guys taking time to listen to me. But I'm going to get back into teaching and going through and sharing my knowledge. And, on June 21st, that's when I'm teaching here in Ocean City. I'm teaching 6 Personal Perspectives. But there's a couple of classes coming up that will help you practice every element of what we go through. June 14th, there are 2 classes that day. One on the 13th and 14th, and then the one in our market center on the 14th. On the 13th and 14th, we have Train the Presenter. That's with Dick Dillingham, and that is going to be in Millersville, I believe. I'm going to it, Kirsten's going to it, I think there's a few others signed up. Now, I will tell you in advance, that class is a class you take if you want to be certified to teach things in Keller Williams later on down the line. There's a cost of that class. It's roughly $300, giving you all the details in advance. Why would you choose to take it? Why would you choose to pay for it? If you want to better present, if you want to have more confidence, if you want to have better conversation starters, what going through Train the Presenter will do is give you exactly that. You are going to be given, and I'll give you the layout of this class, 8-minute presentation that you are going to get like 2 nights before. You'll study, you'll go through, and then you'll be in front of that class, and you have to present it in a certain format that you engage and connect with everybody in that room within 8 minutes. If you're unable to do that, then you won't pass to get to go on to the advanced portion. If you pass, you go on to the advanced portion, which congratulations, instead of an 8-minute presentation, you get a 20-minute presentation where you have to present and connect in front of everybody. I passed the first one, and I actually failed the second, which was funny because people thought I should have passed, and you weren't supposed to get feedback, and this is where me being me comes in. I start challenging that feedback that I get, and not that I'm proud of it, but it was something that was needed to be done in that moment because it just needed to give clarity to what we were missing in that classroom. And the teacher's like, you know what? You will pass next time because you did something that nobody else was able to do. You challenged me without challenging me or challenging the system. You did it in a way that you could grow and elevate other people. And that's what this class is about, right? So that is training presenter. That's June 13th and 14th. If you want to link to that, let me know. I'll shoot a link and you can attend with us. The second class is on June 14th is the mid-year business planning clinic. Be purposeful in everything that you go through. So how many people have a business plan for this year? If you don't have a business plan for this year, you should have one. Guess what you're going to do in the business planning plan? Create your business plan. For those who have a business plan, you're going to go through a mid-year review to see what do you need to adjust, what do you need to tailor so you can finish this year exactly where you want to finish off. That's going to be here in the Market Center. That's an all-day class on June 14th. On June 21st, 2 classes. You have your CE class. John Wall is going to be teaching, giving CE credits, anybody who needs it, inside the Market Center. So talking about renovation and some lending options that are here. If you happen to be in Ocean City, then you can sit with me. I'm teaching 6 personal perspectives. We'll be doing that one at 11 o'clock in Ocean City. On June 27th, there is a class that the region is putting on with Jen Davis. So the combined total of agents on this call, and I'm not going to call you out, but we're going to call a spade a spade. The combined total of agents on this call, including myself, have not sold 250 homes this year. Jen Davis has. So on June 27th, she is going to be in Bethesda talking tips, strategies, what she does to be successful. I would love to have a 30+ agent showing there because we've shown up deep for each one of those events. And we're going to get a lot of value and a lot of knowledge out of it. So if you would like to attend that, when you can make it there, let me know. We will send out emails. The region is sending out emails just of what it takes to get there. I think the tickets for that one are like $35. Lunch is typically included because it's usually at a hotel or they have somebody who's catering lunch in for us. But it's a really good event and it also will let you network in, right? Networking, what we go through, network in with other top producers in our region and have conversations with those producers as well that can further develop your business and understand strategies you want to go through. And then going into July, our young professionals, if you haven't connected with Stanley Savoy, he's putting on an event in July that's going to go over financial matters. While our young professionals are putting it on, it's for every single agent to be a part of it. So we all get to attend, but he is cultivating some of the young, hungry talent in the Baltimore area to be a part of this event to give us that information. That's what we're here for. We have the tips, we have the strategies to help out, and we'll go forward. So as I wrap us up here, you see what the ahas are there. So ahas, agent helps agents see what's something that is good, bad, or indifferent. Give me feedback now. What do we walk away with? What do we learn today? And what's something that is useful for us?
Oh.
Yep. James, that's you. You just got off of me. Give me something. Somebody tell me a note they wrote down.
Being purposeful, and I never thought about actually researching the networking event that I'm going to attend prior to going to see whether, you know, it would be beneficial to me, whether it'd be worth it, and just being prepared to interact with the guests or attendees that will be there.
Perfect. And know this, when you research the event, we're not going to know every single one of them, right? If Doug was in here, and I'll see him in the hallway, but there was an event that I was invited to go to, Bourbons and Bow Ties. I know nothing about this event. I know it sounds great, right? But it sounds like something I'm all about. Although you guys haven't seen me in my bow tie phase, I went through that one for a little bit. But I was like, yeah, I would love to go to it. It just so happens I had conflicting arrangements that day. So I'm looking it up, trying to figure out what I know about it. And what I settled on was, I don't know enough about this event, but I'm seeing people who I want to be connected with that I have no idea who they are. And the people who invited me were good enough that, all right, this is a completely different, diversified network for me to be a part of. It just so happens I couldn't make it. Only thing that eats at me is I didn't know anybody there, so I didn't know those worlds. So I couldn't just tap into somebody later on. So I got to wait until next year. But know this, sometimes you won't know them all. And sometimes you may not know the people, but that shouldn't deter you. It just means you got to be really purposeful with what you want to get out of going to that event, because there are going to be sometimes you know, and I've been to an event where exact situation, I really didn't understand what it was about. It seemed to be something a lot of people were a part of. I knew a few people who went, so I ended up going. And within the first 30 minutes, I realized I don't want to be here anymore. So I talked to the one person I needed to talk to, had a very purposeful, meaningful conversation with them, and then I left. I didn't put that on there, but that's the other thing you need to know. You don't have to stay the entire time in anything that you go into. And I know we know that as adults, but if you are very strategic and purposeful with your time and who you want to interact with, once you have those interactions, if there's nothing else there for you, there's nothing else there. You don't have to remain for the entire time.
I have an
Very
aha
good.
moment.
Go ahead.
Basically clarifying leads and contacts. So at the end of the day, everybody's a lead. But once you engage them beyond a one-way conversation, like you said, take them off of the social media contact and then, you know, engage them through phone calls or text, and they become a contact. And so it becomes more beneficial for both parties.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What else we got? We're over, but I'll give us time for at least one more.
Well, one of my ahas is, was just the takeaway was, you said speaking your goals to other people.
Mhm.
And kind of, you know, about where you're just manifesting, what you're saying, so that we can like breathe it.
Yeah, speaking to an existence.
Speak. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but there was, when you said speaking of goals to other people, that was like, because like to me, it's like, I don't wanna. I keep my goals and my, you know, dreams, if you will, you know, with me, but, you know, I put on here, like, use the goals with my dreams, so it's like, speaking of goals.
Yeah,
I would read that over there.
But-
I like that, I like that.
think about your environment.
Yeah.
The environment we're in this building, you can, and I say it all the time, right? Engage, work, and share. If you are sharing what your goals are, you're sharing even what your dreams are. You got William Savage sitting right here. Do you think if one of your goals is something that he knows someone or has the ability to fulfill, that he would just keep it to himself and he wouldn't even let you know? Or do you think he would be like, no, I got something that can help you along your path? Right? And remember, if you're the person to give, it's a reciprocating relationship, so it'll be there. Especially in environments like this, with all the agents inside this marketing center, we should be talking about our goals and sharing them on a regular basis because somebody will help you get there. And if that goal is, I don't even want to say unachievable, if that goal is something that doesn't flow, I'm not gonna call anything impossible, but is a difficult path to go through, you may have somebody who can have the foresight. William is, I'm looking at two people right now between William and Jeff Lipton. They have an immense amount of knowledge that they can tell you right now that, yeah, if you want to do that, you need to do this first, otherwise it's gonna be very difficult for you. You have a lot of people who are here in your world. Agents help other agents, and that's what we do. Take advantage of that. Yeah. All right, so was it good?
Yeah.
All right, well, I appreciate you guys. We ran over, so if there's anything that you need, you want follow-ups, I know I mentioned a couple of classes, shoot me an email or a text and I'll give you the details for it if you want to attend any of those. And with that, I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.